Well, quite a number of things they talked about in the Senate, but the House of Reps particularly, that's the component that we'll be focusing on this morning concerning their recommendations or suggestions, as well as what is being done about some of this things. Well, today we've got Oluwa Fini, who is the SSA to Lagos State Governor on Health. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Well, yes, indeed. We also do have Honorable Ogene Ego, who is a member representing Amuwo Dofin in Lagos. He will be joining us from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, Honorable, and thank you for joining us today as well. But let me start with you.
Thank you.
All right, let me start with you. Concerning how Lagos is handling some of these things, I'm not sure, have you seen some of the response in terms of those who are not exactly satisfied? But maybe you should start by telling us the measures that the state authorities are adopting to ensure that we contain COVID-19, particularly the latest case.
Okay. Particularly, I'll start from the beginning because COVID-19 is about 4 months old now, worldwide. And prior to even the first case in Lagos, the governor had come out to create a structure which is different from the regular civil service reporting structure, the incident command system. And he's the incident commander, meaning that a lot of the bureaucracy that is usually in civil service was removed so that he would have a direct line to exactly what was going on. Now, beyond direct line, a lot of resources now were put towards refurbishing the isolation center. People, prior to this, people had been trained concerning, we have an isolation center, we have an infectious disease hospital. Therefore, people are trained as to how to deal with this kind of pathogens. Now, corona is not the only infectious pathogen, especially in this part of the world. We are dealing with Lassa prior to this. We're dealing with monkeypox. We're dealing with all sorts of things that sometimes require special care. Now, that was done. In partnership with the federal government, a lot of the staff you see screening at Muritala Mohammed International Airport, which is the international airport in Lagos, are from the Lagos State government.
What about the equipment that they screen with?
They're from the Lagos State government, the equipment they're using. And even in designing the forms that passengers are filling, there was an effort put into by the Honorable Commissioner for Health from Lagos at Abuja when a meeting of the commissioners for health for the states that have international airports was called. And that form was jointly designed as well. Now, yesterday, the governor was at the airport to see what was going on. And he has also been at the mainland hospital, the isolation center in Yaba as well, to see what the status is.
Was he satisfied? Any changes suggested or will be made?
He was satisfied with what he saw.
Why? Isn't it possible for, pressmen to access the area? I mean, when we had Ebola, we saw people with PPEs and they got in there. They took a look at the environment, the area. Why is this one different?
Okay. Right now, there are patients in there right now, beyond the first case. We have people who have suspected cases, who are awaiting test results, primary first test, subsequent test, because you don't test once in certain circumstances and send the people away. In certain circumstances, yes. In certain circumstances, you have to confirm after a few days, 48 to 72 hours. Now, if you have patients in an environment already, it's not the time to bring in the press. And even, not just the press, it's only the people who have clinical care of the patients that should really be coming and going.
You know, well, I asked that because there's been several comments and tweets online. I don't know if you heard it. A certain person accusing the NCDC of not responding to requests from the recent case, the most recent case, for her to be tested since last week, Friday. They didn't respond. The tweet indicated that it was much later that they responded. And so if she hadn't taken that precaution by herself, self-isolating, who knows, it might have spread. And they even also went further to say that at the center, she had not been given medication, she was not being properly attended to. So many thought, well, how are the authorities going to respond to that if they don't show and let people know that this is actually what is going on?
Okay, so the other question is this. In the process of doing that, then the patient becomes exposed. And
you don't have to show the patient.
Okay, we should show us taking
they can sit down and think about how do they want to respond to that, for instance.
Okay, so my response to that would be this. The Honorable Commissioner was just on you played his press conference yesterday. There are phone numbers there. The NCDC, I would encourage those who are residents in Lagos to call the numbers that the Honorable Commissioner has put down. Now, whilst we're in partnership with the NCDC, that message, whatever you tell the NCDC, still has to be relayed to Lagos. NCDC is the National Center for Disease Control, which is domiciled in Abuja. Now, if you're in Lagos, call. The Lagos numbers are all over the place. Yes, the NCDC will get the message across, but as you can imagine, it's a whole lot of calls all the time right now.
Yeah, but is the state government aware of this particular accusation?
Oh, yes, we're aware.
Oh, okay. So how are they responding to that?
The patient is under care. And I also say this, from the literature, there is actually no definitive treatment for this yet. There are all sorts of experiments, trials going on. All you can do is treat the symptoms of whatever the person has. If the person is running a temperature, you try and control that. Yes, maybe the use of, and I'm not going to name any drug here, because we've also seen people abuse drugs.
Absolutely.
The entire Lekki does not have chloroquine right now because people think that it is going to prevent or treat. All those things are experimental.
Does that suggest, madam, that the nature of coronavirus is not known or understood by health practitioners?
That's clear. It's very new. So people are still putting combinations together to see what works best. Yes, certain medication is shown in some cases, because what they're also saying is that what works in certain individuals does not also work in other individuals. So you cannot give a blanket statement and say, oh, this is what we're going to use. So there's still a little bit of experimentation going on.
So explain to us, explain to us what it means when someone tests positive, and then after some time the person is said to test negative. What does that mean? Because we heard that about the second case. Okay,
the first test meaning that we test your nose swab, we test your sputum as well. Two things. We check the viral load. We know what the virus looks like, so we check for it. And in checking for it, if it's positive, it means we can see that this particular one.
At what point do you do all that check?
When the person presents, you have a travel history, or you have the symptoms of COVID, which include upper respiratory tract, meaning either you're coughing, dry cough usually, you're having sometimes difficulty breathing, running a temperature, and you have history of travel or history of contact with somebody that has had it or somebody that has traveled. Now, the other thing is this. People are not showing symptoms as well. Yeah. People are positive and asymptomatic. I'm sure everybody has seen Idris Elba's video. He's asymptomatic, but he's positive. So it's manifesting in different ways.
Okay. Yeah. So when this person tests negative eventually, what are the things that necessitated? What kind of medication did the person get? What kind of treatment or care did the person get before the positive reverses to negative?
Okay, so with viruses run, and then it's like burning out. Eventually, if the person is in good health, the person is receiving supportive care, meaning, like I said earlier, if you're running a temperature, we keep it, we try and keep the temperature under control. If it is diarrhea, which is also one of the features of coronavirus, we try and keep the diarrhea under control. And then sometimes there may be a need for antivirals. You do all that, and then eventually the virus comes out of the person's system, or it's eliminated naturally from the person's system. And then you test, and then you can't see any level of the virus, or a level that cannot even be tested. You know, I would compare it also with HIV, when you say people have undetectable levels, so they're okay. I mean, it's there, it may be there, but that's in HIV now, but it's undetectable. But with the corona, when we test, then you see that, okay, the viral load is not significant. They're cutoffs. Those are technical laboratory things. So they're cutoffs, so they say, okay, this is now a negative test.
All right. Now, there are people that have come in contact with, I mean, maybe relatives or friends, colleagues that have come into the country from, you know, countries that have high cases of a coronavirus. And there are people that also think that perhaps these cases are really underreported or underdetected in Lagos, in Nigeria as a whole. And they think that in the coming weeks, we'll probably see that we're sitting on, you know, a keg of gunpowder. That's what they think. So is there like a measure in place where people can call and say, you know what, I want to be tested because I feel that, you know, I've come in contact with people. Can they voluntarily come up and say, let me be tested?
Not right now. And the reason is this. There are people who are ill actively. They will get priority. So if somebody has come in, is running a temperature, is coughing, those kind of people will get tested first. Okay. And having tested those ones first, whoever is in their contacts, who are their contacts now, which is what the word we use, will then be quarantined, will be advised to quarantine.
You know, part of the question people always ask is, how did this latest case get past the airports?
Okay, just like the first case as well. She was fine when she came in. She didn't have a fever, she wasn't coughing, there were no issues. And then a few days later, she started feeling unwell. And then the process of getting across. And
how many days later did she start feeling unwell?
I think she came in on the 13th, and she was admitted 2 days ago. So in between there, she started feeling.
Did she call? Did you get the report that she actually called last week, Friday, to be tested, that she was secreting some symptoms?
No.
So I saw the commissioner tweet saying if you're on this certain flight, we need to self-quarantine. Yes. And I understand that contact tracing is ongoing. How far with that? Because a lot of people are worried. What if my colleague was on that flight or something?
Okay. So the commissioner was calling for all the passengers on BA 75 that came in on the 13th of March to report, to call in and let us know. Although we have the manifest, but it's faster. We're calling, you're also calling us. We can put the two lists together. We know that everybody is covered. That process is ongoing. That process is ongoing.
So how many people can we test at the moment in one fell swoop?
What do you mean by one fell swoop?
Testing kits.
What's our capacity?
Yeah.
The country has 4 places that can test.
I mean, Lagos. Lagos doesn't get it right. We know that other states might struggle.
We can test as many people as we need to test.
Do we have enough testing kits in Lagos?
Okay, so I'm going to say what Commissioner said yesterday. People think it's a kit, like you open a box and then you get this thing that you drop blood. No, it's reagents, which are liquids, and then you put them through a process with the samples, and then you get your results.
So do we have enough reagents?
We have enough reagents.
Because I was listening to the US yesterday, state saying, you know, we don't have enough reagents. But you know, I understand that this is still in the early stages. That's why they call it the novel coronavirus. But we're looking at a stage where we're perhaps ahead of that curve. Maybe we're doing some form of research to know this is how to handle it, this is how to test if someone even had it and recovered, such that we can perhaps, you know, I don't know what you call it, maybe, you know, backwire it or something to get how it works. But are we doing research in that area? As much as, yes, we're treating people, but are we doing research in that area too?
Absolutely. A lot of academics are involved in this as well. It's not just the clinicians. It's the whole range. And every day we have an operations meeting, in fact, twice a day. And both as a group and individual groups. Every day, we have new information. So research is ongoing, constantly.
Because I see that in different countries, they talk about the categories of people who are susceptible. They ask questions as to, look, the ones that have been discharged or showing good symptoms, what was their pre-existing medical condition? People who may have similar things need to take precautions. So are the authorities looking to release that kind of information and tell the people, well, if you have this kind of pre-existing condition, you may be susceptible, this kind of thing, so that people
okay, so the fundamental, what the research is showing is people over 50 do worse off with it than people under 50. It shows that children...
That's global research or localized research?
Global research. Now, it also shows, and I guess maybe because people over that age have pre-existing conditions, things like diabetes, hypertension, generally make things more difficult. Now, it also shows that children have better outcomes from it. Now, it doesn't mean that children don't get coronavirus. So that's what the research is showing. Okay. But we don't have enough patients to come up with that kind of... So this research is coming from countries who have had thousands of patients. So if you have 1, 2, 3, you can't come to any kind of conclusion scientifically. In science, you need a good population to be able to make any statements.
All right, then.
Yes.
Oroluwafemi is the SSA to Lagos State Governor on Health. Thank you for your time this morning. Now we understand you need to get on with some other activities. All right, so we'll also, as we said initially, Honorable Ogene Ego is in Abuja. Honorable, good morning again. Thank you again for joining us. Well, the House of Reps...
Good morning. I'm happy to be around.
All right, so the House of Reps took a look at some of these things. You debated it yesterday. You made some suggestions to the authorities, the government. Could you tell us what informed those decisions concerning the flights? Break it down for us.
Yeah. You know, naturally, the House of Rep, as a house that is closest to the people, as a house that was voted by all Nigerians in 360 constituencies of Nigeria, were concerned about the health of our people. And so we debated the COVID-19, which is coronavirus. And we felt that we were lucky so far that we have only 3 cases. But we should not relax, and we should not carry our luck too far, because it could be worse. And there may be some other people there who have it that we don't know about. So we said, let us take precaution. For instance, let's not assemble a large group, you know, where you have like 50 people or more. Please don't be in such a place. And then we're also talking about not taking for granted flights that are coming from areas that are affected. The Indian person who brought this disease to Nigeria is from Italy. So we felt that it is better, you know, to ban flights that are coming from Italy, US, Spain, of course, China, South Korea, and those countries that are worst hit, so that this is not exported to Nigeria. So the debate was more for us to be more careful. And let's not imagine, at the stage, you know, we thought a black man cannot be affected. But now we now know that, you know, 2 Nigerians are affected here, plus the Italian. And we now hear that a Nigerian medical doctor in Canada, and another one in Germany, also died of the disease. So we should not take it for granted. This disease can indeed affect black people, and we should take the necessary health precautions as the medical doctors are advising. This was the kernel of the debate.
When they came up with those, were there specifics? Because if you're asking them to take more precautions, rightly so, concerning the flights, what economic suggestions were made? Because they can't just say, take precautions about the flights. Anybody can say that. What economic cushion did the House suggest to accompany that if the government were to implement your suggestions?
Yeah, all we are saying is that checks should be carried out regularly at airports as people come in. And we felt that if we allow these regular flights to continue to come from abroad, and the disease is brought in by a couple of people, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to affect our economy seriously. So it's better to take precaution at this stage. Let us watch it for some time. When it gets better all over the world, then, of course, we can allow flights to come. But as it is now, all manners of flights are coming from all countries. even Italian flights from China are coming to Nigeria from America, from Britain. These are areas that are heavily affected. The flights are coming. I'm sure people from Iran would fly here and enter the country. Today, we have over 10,000 cases that have tested positive in Iran. In South Korea, it's the same thing. So these are the general concerns, of it. And of course, we urge the government also to continue to provide free treatment for those who are found to have gotten the sickness, because people may have it, the symptom, and they may not have the necessary fund to take care of themselves. So if government does not make the treatment free, then of course, people are they will stay at home or go out and they will affect more people. It's a battle everybody is fighting. It's a demonic battle that we want to overcome it. And we know that Nigeria will overcome it in Jesus' name.
Absolutely. Now, another angle is, yes, you say there's a debate ongoing, and we expect there to be a resolution or some form of, conclusion that the House will present to the executive and say, this is what we think you should do. But a lot of Nigerians are thinking the government should be stricter with this measure. So how would you ensure that whatever comes out of your debate will be implemented by the government?
Yeah, we have a legislative compliance section in the House right now. The wisdom of the Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, he has set up a legislative compliance section. In those days, like in the 8th Assembly, we move a lot of resolutions and it ends here, but not anymore. We have a committee who takes all resolutions, who contact if it's made a ministry. For instance, this COVID-19, where we say we should ban all flights. Of course, this will be transmitted to the Minister of Aviation, to the federal government, and then we engage them to ensure that the resolutions are carried out. The resolution of the House now have a bite, unlike before when you make resolution and nothing happen. Now when we make resolutions, we face them, we follow it up. And this issue of COVID-19 is a very serious issue, and the House takes it very seriously because the health of the people is affected. Of course, you are aware that the first major article of the Constitution is that the government is set up to provide for the the health and security and welfare of the people. And if COVID-19 spreads in the country as it's spreading in Italy and other parts, then the welfare of the people are not taken care of. So that is one reason why we are going to make sure the legislative compliance section will follow it up to ensure that these decisions we are taking are seriously followed up and they are abided by. I'm sure the federal government themselves will not joke with these decisions.
Right. Honorable, now while you are working towards these measures, there are those who are also looking at the economy. They're keeping their eye on the economy, seeing how this will affect the economy. So I'd like to know, from the perspective of the House, have you gathered some form of data to know how this will affect the economy, what it will mean, to the different sectors of the economy, such that we can make informed decision, as it were?
Of course, we are aware. For instance, the budget was predicated on $57 per barrel of oil. Today, it is 30-something, dollars now. We are lucky that Russia eventually agreed with Saudi Arabia on certain issues, and the price is rising gradually. We believe that we should not take panicky measures. For instance, in the black market, 4 days ago, the dollar went to 4 and something, but eventually it came down to 360. So sometimes panic actions cannot solve a long-term problem. But we are aware that, and we are monitoring the budget, and we believe that if the need arises for us to ask the federal government to reduce the size of the budget, of course we will do. Because if the dollar price that we use to buy oil, if we are not selling enough oil, don't forget that China is one of our biggest oil consumers. And today, China is locked down, although they are beginning economic activity is coming up gradually there. So if China is not buying our oil, then of course, we don't have any oil to sell. And of course, because you don't have enough economic activity in Italy, in America, in France and other areas, economically advanced countries, cars are not moving, consumption of fuel, of petroleum product has reduced. So, of course, it's going to affect our the budget. And we are working on it. The appropriation is on it. Committee of Finance in the House is on it. And I'm sure very soon the position of the House will be made known. Even the Senate debated it on it yesterday. And in the House, too, we touched partially on it. And I can assure you that the House is looking at it. Our interest is to ensure that the economy is well taken care of, because when we go to our constituency, we meet the people, and if the economy is not working well, it doesn't help us. And
that's
so
why we asked that the National Assembly, they've got to come up with specifics that will really cushion the bottom line. But then we'll come back and take some more perspectives on other matters with you in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, yes, we'll continue with that in a moment, but just to inform you, this news just in, the NYSC has announced that they've cut short the orientation for the corps members by 2 weeks. So it's something that had been in the minds of lots of people. What's going to happen ever since the postponement of the National Sports Festival, that's large gathering of people, so people in that same theme, who knows what other kinds of actions. So now that NYC has cut short this, so corps members can do with this.
And they're expected to now report at their PPA, that's their primary place of assignment. But the question now is what happens next? But we understand that this is NYC basically listening, to the voice of reason, to the voice of a lot of people that have clamored saying we should hold on this. So yes, NYC has cut short the orientation camp by 2 weeks. It was meant to end at the end of this month, but now it's been cancelled.
Well, one wonders what the arrangement is in many schools, secondary schools, primary schools, and all of that. These are questions that I believe that the authorities should also be informing people on the go, especially in the light of what we read in the morning on the front pages of the headlines, that there's no testing place at all in all of the north and in the southeast. That should give someone concern.
So, but bottom line is the authorities, it doesn't have to be a knee-jerk approach. They need to properly think these things through, and most importantly, don't make life harder for the people. It's got to be a lot easier such that they can eventually then move. So we hope that the corps members have got additional information concerning what they can do, what happens next, how do they move on, and several other suggestions.
Or at least there's a communication portal open through which they can get information on the go.
So there you go. The NYC, they've got short the orientation by 2 weeks. That's the latest information coming through from them. But let's get back to Honorable Ogane Ego, our concluding moments with him. Honorable, your constituency, Boledo, happens to be, yes, there. And this unfortunate incident that occurred, yes, the Lagos State government have set up just crowdfunding scene. They want lots of people to contribute, to help. They have also put in some funding there. What is the latest thinking? What are you doing to help people in that area?
Yeah, the incident is a very unfortunate one. You only need to be there. Yesterday, I came from there with the Speaker of the House. We looked at everywhere, and it's unimaginable. It is like Nagasaki or Hiroshima when they threw atomic bomb there. This explosion was so strong that even houses that were about 2 kilometers away, some of them got damaged. So you can imagine what people suffered there. So many people are dead. So it's very sad. I consider myself as a chief mourner because the people and my people will be there. And we're working hard. I've written to NEMA to provide aid to the people. Myself and the Speaker, we've discussed it today. We, Lagos State as a whole, are moving a motion on this issue. And besides that, we are collaborating with Lagos State government, who have already set up a fund of $2 billion. I mean, $2 billion naira. That money may not be enough, but it's a good start. I commend the governor of Lagos State for that initiative he took. And we are in the House today. We are going to be taking a lot of decisions and asking government to provide to the people, even provide for roofing, and to compensate the people who died, because some of the houses are very far from where oil pipeline is, and yet the damage came to them. So the damage is not of their own accord. Some of the houses that got the damage, some have necessary documents from government. So we think that these people need to be compensated. For instance, the school, one of the best schools in my constituency, built by the Catholic Church.
We need to wrap up with you. But just one more thing. The House also debated this bill to see how they can ensure that multi-choice and other pay TV stations come up with this pay as you go. So what is it going? How is the House going to see this through? Because there are lots of people who say, look, it's not the first time that they had this kind of conversation, but this time, what will be different?
We see it through because we set up a committee on it because we felt that body shows, the DSTV was just shitty people. It's like when the television has its K first and they say, oh, we cannot do pay as you go. MTS said that. Until Glo introduced pay as you go, pay per second. I think that's what we need to do because there are times you will pay like 10,000, 15,000 for your DSTV, and you may travel, you may not use it. At the end of the day, the money is gone. Now, DSTV operates in a host of countries. In their home country, they don't do what they are doing. In their home country, it's pay as you go. We don't know why they decide to come to Nigeria to come and cheat people. The House have decided that this will not continue, and we set up a committee. I can assure you the committee will work on it, and whatever decision the committee will take will be in the interest of Nigeria. We cannot have our people ripped off. And another thing is also the monopoly of DSTV or multi-choice. A situation where they are the only people being on European football or the popular sports. It doesn't happen. Even in South Africa, they have competitors. So why is it that in Nigeria, only one person takes it and the remaining television houses are not able to make money from it? Nigerians are crazy about football. And so much money is being made through viewership, through advertising, and that kind of thing. And it's not good that such a monopoly exists. These are some of the issues we'll be looking at in the committee.
All right, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Honorable Ogene Ego is the member representing Amur-Odofe constituency in Lagos. Now we'll be back and take a look at another matter, economy, how it relates with COVID.